What is up, everybody? This is your voice behind the mic on the Snake Sports Talk Show podcast shows that I always post up on Podbean. My name is Jake Silva, and yes, I am the creator of this page. And first and foremost, I want to celebrate with all of you 1 year since this page had officially launched in 2019 on this very day of February 26th. I look back at it a year from now, and I can honestly say I never would have thought all of this was possible. For years and years, and I'll give you a biography of myself. This is strictly what this video is all about. And for everybody to know on both Facebook Live and on YouTube channel, this video strictly is about my 1 year anniversary with this page, but it also talks a lot about my backstory and how I ended up getting big into sports that has motivated and has pushed me to now officially creating my first ever podcast. For years growing up, sports had always been a part of my life. It had been a part of me growing up, and it has shaped me to the person that I am today, running my own podcast show, running my page, and I can honestly tell you, I have become more than satisfied after creating this page and after getting involved. I'm thrilled. For years, I've always been big on sports, no matter what it was: baseball, football, basketball, and hockey. Every single sport always had a meaning in my life. For years and years, I've always grown up playing and watching the game of baseball. And for years, the game was all I've ever known. And growing up, learning and playing the game, I learned a lot more than just the game itself. I learned more about the importance of life and what impact that it has on mine. My real dad always taught me the game, and we'd always watch baseball games all the time on the television. And he would always do this one thing, was looking at certain catchers, predicting what pitch was coming, and seeing if the batter will either prevail, get a base hit, or hit a home run, or would strike out. It was always a fun time growing up, learning so much about the game and the essence of it. And it had played such a huge part in my life. As I've said, I grew up playing the game as well. My one position was always outfield. And for years and years, outfield to me was like my own personal beach. And I was just that little kid playing in the sand. I love sports. I love sports more than anything else. Something about it gives me such drive and such motivation to want me to do something more. And even growing up as a kid, all throughout my life, I was always thrilled and I was always excited for extracurricular activities, and mostly when it came to physical education. Anytime during elementary school or middle school, I would always play every single sport that came to mind. There were times in middle school where I played field hockey. There were times where we ended up playing basketball and sometimes also playing baseball as well. Sports in itself, I can't get enough of. I watch every single game. I learn every single player day in and day out, learn about their stats, learn about their personalities and what they bring to the table. It has always been my gift to have learned that and to have known that. And I've learned it over the years for as long as I can remember, and this has pushed me to officially have created my page and to officially create my podcast where I can sit down, talk amongst all of you, all of my faithful sport fans out there, and give you insights. That way you guys can like, comment, and share with me your thoughts. Sports has always had an impact on all of our lives. There's something about it. Sometimes it can give us superstition. Sometimes it can give us cheap thrills. And sometimes it could even give us the moments in life where there are some emotions you just can't control. That's the fan in us. I've always been a fan of the teams that I've loved watching. Obviously, this team that I watched, the Vegas Golden Knights, since year one. When I was 6 years old, I was always a fan of the Chargers and have watched them ever since through all the great moments and the disappointments. But I've always been a loyalty fan. I've also grown up being an A's fan, watching every single young kid have the opportunity to come up into the big leagues, show their stuff, and what they're capable of playing in the show. It was always kind of just the fun thing that you enjoy watching. But baseball as a whole was always a huge part of my life. Growing up, I remembered going to my first ever Major League Baseball game when I was 6 years old at the old Yankee Stadium. My all-time favorite icon has always been Derek Jeter. Just the way that he walked on the field and the way that he carried himself, his personality, is one beyond compare. He was a one-of-a-kind and is what gave him the title, the captain. Watching him play and watching how much that he expressed the game is what made me love it so much. Watching a player for 20 years play on the same team, win championships, win titles, and shown what it means to be loyal to a team. You hardly see that in any sports nowadays. And sports has become such a big business. Lots of players come through, lots of players get paid, endorsement deals, and it's all over. It's global. But for me in my life, because sports had such a huge impact for me, and growing up, I always loved watching all of my favorite players, including Derek Jeter. I always had this love for it. Something that I could never truly explain so much to whether it was my family or it was to my friends, and let alone my loving girlfriend. But sports to me has always been what I felt was my comfort zone. It was a place that was my safe haven. I was able to sit down, turn on a microphone, put a headphones on, and speak my mind about every certain topic that came my way. Playing in the sports, there were a couple of different sports I played that I was pretty good at. Some kind of good and some just didn't really have the skills and put in the time for. But over and all, it never took away my enjoyment of any of them. Last year, I made the decision to officially launch this page. And what's funny, and for some of you that see my Instagram post and even see my story, I have a picture of Nolan Arenado in one of the corners. And funny thing of it is, Nolan Arenado was the first topic I ever talked about in my page. And it was regarding his massive 9-year contract deal. And I started speaking my mind about how this contract deal ensures that Nolan Arenado is the face of the Colorado Rockies franchise, and how the deal itself is not a complete failure. Because you look at some of the other expensive contracts like Bryce Harper's, Manny Machado's, Mike Trout's, and last year, none of them made the playoffs. And it was my first ever start to something special. Some of my favorite memories that I have of my page was not only just the first topic I talked about, but you scroll on throughout the year. I remembered having my first connection to a very, very good friend of mine. You can follow him. His name is Jimmy Maverick. He's what I call my fantasy football guru. He does fantasy football posts all the time, ensures you of players who are one of two things. One, could potentially be the best ones that you would want on your fantasy roster, and two, the ones that you should avoid. And it was such an amazing time, and I loved every moment of it. Just talking strictly about sports and talking about football. It was the start of something. At the time, I knew I couldn't put too much time into my sports page. It was difficult, and it was pretty time consuming. And the only thing of it is, and I can tell you in my personal life, I work as a pool guy. You know, I'm stuck servicing 91 pools a week. But it never stops me from taking a moment, taking the absolute best time that I have to just sitting down and talking sports with all of you. And seeing what your insights are on every sports topic. I've even grown up with friends who are big-time sports fanatics. They all told me their favorite teams. They all told me their favorite players. And I would just sit down and have just, a conversation. And what's funny about this is sports sometimes has a way of bonding with each other. It just does. Doesn't matter what favorite team yours are, or even if you're debating about a certain player. Something about sports as a whole just has this interconnection from one another. And sports brings unity to us as a society. And I can tell you that a lot of people ask me, Jake, how do you not get tired of sports? What is it about it that has a drive for you? Well, I can tell you this. Outside of politics, outside of everyday life, sports to me brings sometimes a little bit of healing. Whenever I go through just the normal mundane of everyday life. And no matter who's in our presidency, and no matter what politics try to steer us in different directions, sports has always given me a safe haven and a place to keep my sanity. And I love it and I embrace it every single day of my life. And throughout it, it has grown and increased to where every single day I was posting up something that went down in sports, whether it was a contract signing, a trade rumor, a hire or firing of a manager, a head coach, or even injury updates. That was all that this page began in Instagram. And since then, it has grown its roots to where it has now expanded onto Facebook. It's expanded onto Twitter. It's also allowed me to create a podcast on my Podbean network at podbean.com. For all of you guys, I encourage you to watch or listen to my podcasts on that network just by searching Snake Sports Talk Show. And tonight, I am now doing my 1-year video here that's actually streaming live on Facebook Live and on the YouTube channel. This page, what started so small, has grown itself to become something special and something big. And it's something that I truly love. I never would have thought any of this was possible. You know, since the second grade in my life, my biggest dream was to become a police officer. That was my dream since second grade. And in my adult life, I did take the time to where I never forgot that dream, and I went to go and chase it. I've tried 2 tests. I was only one more pass away from finally getting into the academy, but only one test failed. And it had something to do with life experience. I wasn't discouraged. I went and tried again in a different department, passed physical, passed the written, but never made it through the interview. I'm not saying that it hits me hard at home, knowing of something that you dreamed of since second grade could either be a dream come true, or it could just be a dream that wouldn't happen. When it came to sports, it was always something that had stuck around with me. I never had the opportunity, and I didn't even know where to start to begin talking about sports. But then finally, something clicked in my head that started this very day last year. Starting an Instagram page. Something small, something simple. And I know with everyday society that when it comes to creating a business, or when it comes to creating a podcast, or creating just something special, you have one of 2 people. You have the optimistic people who look at every single open door. They see all the options, and they're very critical of every single option because they have all the cards in their in the palm of their hands, and they're seeing which one is the one that creates longevity. And then are the ones that are the fast takers, the ones that only see one option, and they push through it, they thrive through it, and who knows what the outcomes will be in the end. Nothing ever comes second to mind with them. Sometimes there are places that have either, number one, thrived through that, or number 2, they struggled and they failed. Me, I started up something small. What's going on, Darian? By the way, guys, really, really good friend of mine here. He owns a couple of podcasts, and one that I like in particular, Spotlight Sports Talk. He's a great guy. He's very, very optimistic, and he's also someone that, like myself, thinks outside the box. So if you guys ever check out his page, I encourage you guys to like and follow his page. Check out his podcast, and also check out his live video streams. It's remarkable, unbelievable. But going back to it, being up on this page, starting something small, simple, it takes a lot of work. Time was something that I never really struggled with throughout my entire life. No matter how many times people have told me, how long are you going to sit on this? Or are you ever going to start? That is a struggle that all of us in a society sometimes deal with, because we just don't know where to start. Or some of us, we think about it so much and then it never happens. And at that time, I figured if I started something small, get at least a small growth of followers, maybe then it's a spark. It's a start of something. And where I had started, which only had maybe 5, 10 followers, has only grown to 164 to this day. And so much more. I plan to expand it and I plan to grow it into something very, very special. None of this would have ever been possible without the supports of my great fans, my friends, my family, and most of all, my loving girlfriend. Their motivation and their support has pushed me to the limits to where I've created something absolutely special, and I continue to grow it for as long as its roots take it. And throughout it, what started as an Instagram page has expanded to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube channel, and even on the Podbean podcast network. I couldn't be more proud and more happy and blessed to have made this decision and take this opportunity. And I hope that for all of you guys, because you guys are my loving fans, you guys are my loving friends as well. And I do have my family members as well that follow me. Thank you so much, man. Like I said, love like that. You know, it's something that always strives and pushes me to do better. I love two different kinds of people. My great fans, the ones who love this show and can't get enough of it, that listen to it almost every single day. You guys have given me so much support, and you guys have given me so much different, different opinions to think about. And I've listened to each and every single one of you. And then there are also my critics. You guys probably have never, agreed with most of my posts, which is okay. I don't expect you to agree with all of my posts. And then there are some that think, I don't really know so much about sports. Well, that's fine. What do I know? I'm just a sports talk guy, right? But even your guys' parts of your negativity and sometimes your critiques has also pushed me and motivated me more to then have to think more outside the box. And it has never stopped me from doing what I enjoy and what I love. And I can tell you this, from what I first started when I was in second grade, wanted to be a police officer, wanted to be somebody that can serve a community. That dream eventually burnt off. But it's never forgotten. It may be something that I still do think about, but it's never been my drive. On this podcast and everything else, I feel like I found my passion. I found something that I can get up every single morning, whether I'm at my job, and I turn on the radio and I listen to great listeners like Colin Cowherd of The Herd, JT the Brick and his show out here locally in Vegas. Every single legendary listener. Even growing up as a kid, and when my pops and I, my stepdad, when we watched Dodger games, my legendary commentator was Vince Scully. There was every single time where I imitated his voice because, like Vince Scully, it was as if I was having a conversation with my great-great-grandfather, God rest his soul, because him and I always talked about baseball for as long as he had lived and for as long as I've grown. And he always had this smile on his face because he couldn't have a conversation like this with any of the grandkids. I'm serious. Most of the grandkids, they were football fanatics. Hardly did either of them talk about baseball. But every time I came over on a beautiful Sunday after enjoying a joy ride, it was always surreal moments I will never forget for the rest of my life. And I know that there is a piece of him that I hold dearly in my heart. And as I've said, sports just impacts people in so many different ways. And I can tell you just by looking at the comments from here, one of my really, really good friends that I remember from high school, we remembered each other from high school football camp and our two-a-days, and we just shared this bond. You know, it was a one of a kind. You know, we grew up in high school. We were called the real homies, and we still do connect and we still do talk to each other to this day. And it's a bond we'll never ever forget. And of course, looking at the comments are my beautiful girlfriend, who I'm always blessed to have by my side and supporting me in every way possible through the ups, through the downs. Nothing in life could ever stop us. It's us against the world. But to conclude this video, because I know that it's definitely been a long time, almost about half an hour. I'm still trying to work on that, but bear with me. But throughout it, sports has always been a passion to me. I've listened to legendary commentators. I've listened to legendary broadcasters, and just the way that they feed information into people's minds and into people's ears, it just draws them closer. It's an ability I can't explain. There's just something about it when it comes to sports that people around the world, not even just nationwide, but around the world, that connects with you. We couldn't have that with politics. We couldn't have that with certain things in life. Because in today's society, we do feel a little bit divided because of who exactly is our president, who exactly is in office in different parts of, politics. It was always a constant debate and a filibuster every single day. I always told people every time I watched politics for 5 minutes, I feel like I have a stroke every time. But in sports, it's the thrills, it's the emotions, and it's the drives that has driven me to do something that I absolutely love. So in this 1-year anniversary, I'm so proud of how much that this page has grown, and I will continue to grow it for as long as it lasts. And I love the opportunities that I have received and that have been given. And I will do absolutely the best in my power to do what I can to entertain all of you, to get you all to critically think about certain situations and certain things that happen in sports. Keeping you entertained, keeping you plugged in. That is my passion. Connecting with people in various ways. Because in the end, when you look at it from beyond sports, you find out what life is all about. And this is something that I love so much. So I thank all of you for watching this. And I thank you all for all of your love and all of your support. Keep it coming to me. Keep up with your likes. Keep up with your follows. Keep up with your comments and everything. You guys have no idea how impactful it is on this page and what impact it brings in my life. It's unbelievable. And I appreciate every single one of you. And with that said, a year has gone by. Let's do the absolute best. Let's do this to the best for years to come. Thank you so much, everybody. Check out my podcast. keep up with my show.